Hi, I'm back. You know, there have been a lot of tapering jigs around for a long time, and I think I've tried them all, but I've never found one that I didn't think was dangerous. I saw one recently that looked like it was pretty well designed, but it was so cheaply built that I didn't even try it. We basically built ours 3 years ago, and we've been running it in shops ever since, to get new features and to perfect it overall. And we now have the product that we've always wanted. When we were developing this product, our mindset was not cheap. We wanted to build a product that was high quality and it was safe and it would work. And we now have it. And now I'll show you how it works.
First, there's a steel bar that runs in the saw channel. Then we have an 8 by 30 inch base plate that rides flat on the saw table. And this eliminates all flexing and distortion. And next I'll show how our stop works. Just loosen the 2 knobs. Now you can move it in or out, right or left, and to any angle that you want. There's a stop on the end to hold it lengthwise. Just slide it in place, tighten the knobs, and that's it. Now it is set up to cut more pieces exactly the same size. To use the hold downs, regardless of what the thickness of the board is, just set it down on the board and lock the cam levers. No knobs to turn. And now I'll fasten the board in place and make a cut.
Now we're going to put a bevel cut on here. I'm going to go from about 1/4 here to 1 inch down here. Now what you do is draw a line on there. You can draw a lighter line so you don't have to sand it out, but I made it deeper so you could see it. And what you do, that's where your saw is going to cut. But make a little mark 1/4 inch over to the side on both ends. And then you line that up with the edge of the slide plate because it is 1/4 inch from the blade. So I'm going to line those 2 little 1/4 inch marks up, front and back, swing my cam over, drop it down, lock it in place. I'll do the back one, drop it down, lock the cam into place, put the 3rd cam in, drop it down, lock it, and now we're ready to make the cut. Now, if you want to make another piece like that, or multiple pieces, just slide your guide over, push it back so the stop gets at the end, tighten these 2 down, and now you just make repetition pieces because they're going to be exactly the same. But that made an absolute perfect cut because there's no distortion in there. It can't move up or down or sideways. And now I'm going to loosen the stop, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put a bell or edge on it, but I'm going to use a 45. So now I've got to turn the saw to a 45. Now I have a line drawn here how I'm going to cut that. That's going to be on a 45. I'm going to have 3 inches up here and 2 inches down here. Now the problem you have with this is where your blade comes out on this board when you have a 45. So we just have a little marker here, and we're going to have one out of aluminum. That's got little lines on it for 3/4 inch board, 1/2 inch board, or 1/4. You just hold that against the base plate, move the board over to where it lines up with the 3/4 mark. and then drop your locking knob down. Now on this end I'm doing the same thing. I'm going to move this over to the 3/4 mark, swing this around, drop it down on me, this one around, lock it down, and see now this is where the 45 is going to come out on that blade. And all you have to do is put this against here and line that mark up with the mark on the board. And now we'll go ahead and make a cut.
Now you can see how easy and accurately that was to make, and it was done very safely. Now I'm going to make a waterfall on a glued up tabletop. This has always been hard to do because to get a good fit, both 45s have to be perfect. There is a slight bow in this top, so to try and cut it using the saw guide and trying to hold it down straight on the table is just too hard to do. Plus you could get a bad kickback. So I'm making this cut with the panel saw guide. The guide will hold it flat. I'm going to have the same problem with the small piece, so I will make that cut on the tapering jig. And now I'll go ahead and make the cut on the large piece.
And now I'm going to switch over to the tapering jig to cut this small piece. Now this small piece was bowed. So to try to cut that on a table saw against the guide and hold it down and push it through and try to hold it down throughout the entire cut is nearly impossible. So I put 3 hold downs on here now because that takes the bow out of it. So now I can run this through here very safely. It'll be very precise because now this is laying perfectly flat. So now I'm going to go ahead and make the cut. There, now we have 2 perfect 45s. The 45 is perfect on the big piece, and the 45 is perfect on here. Even though both pieces were bowed, we got them cut straight. Now I'm going to set this off of here now, and I'm just going to hold this over here, and this is where you've got an absolute perfect 45, and your grain of the wood lines up, and you put that together and you're going to look like a real pro, because it takes a real pro to make a cut like that. Now the next thing I'm going to do here, I'm going to get set up to make a tapered table leg. Now as you can see, I've already tapered this leg. I've tapered taken about 3/8 of an inch taper from this end to this end. That's already on there. The reason I've done that is I want to show you that these little pads swivel. So even though this has been cut on an angle, and now I'm going to put another angle on the side, these little pads swivel. So they come down on their flat and they hold it in place. And now I'll go ahead and put the other taper on it. So now you can see that I put the taper on from both sides, and it was held in place. Nothing was going to come out. Never worry about ruining a good piece of hardwood again. Here you can see the tapers we have, both directions on it. and it was just so easy to make. So that's how easy it is to make the tapered legs on here. The tapering jig will make a cut up to 6 inches wide. If you want to go wider, just use the panel saw guide. Now after you've seen the tapering jig work, you can see what I mean when I say it's very well built, high quality, and it works, while doing it all very safely.